Nike is the world's largest sportswear brand. They earn about 1 billion rupees each day. World-class athletes like Ronaldo and Rafael Nadal use their products. But would you believe that the person who made Nike, he was a failed athlete and started his business by selling shoes from the trunk of his car. This is the story of Nike's founder, Phil Knight. Phil Knight was born in the year 1938 in a small town in America named Portland. From childhood, he ran very fast, and his ultimate dream in life was to be a great athlete. In school and college, he worked a lot on his running and won several races. Along with running, Phil continued his education and completed his MBA in 1962. He still wanted to continue running, but during their morning practice run, they faced reality. After dedicating their entire youth to running, they had become one of the best athletes in their state. But he could not become a national or international level athlete. Sadly, he was good but not great. He was now 24 years old, and there was no scope for improving in athletics. So that morning, with a very heavy heart, Phil accepted that this was the end of his athletic career. In his dream of becoming an elite athlete, he had failed. But even then, he wanted to do something that would keep him close to sports. Like every runner, Phil was deeply connected to his running shoes, so he decided that Phil remembered that during his MBA, he had studied for several weeks and had written a detailed research paper on the running shoes business. In the research, he found out that Japanese camera companies, with their better quality and low prices, according to their research paper, Japanese shoes could similarly disrupt the US shoe market and overtake the biggest companies of that time, Adidas and Puma. Based on this college project, but Phil had no other option. He decided that he would import Tiger brand shoes from Japan and sell them in the United States. Tiger shoes were manufactured by a Japanese company called Onitsuka. So Phil Before the meeting, he was quite nervous. A young boy, naturally shy and introverted, suddenly set out to partner with a very large Japanese shoe company. On top of that, Onitsuka's executive, don't know how, but the image of the blue ribbons kept at Phil's house came to his mind. The same blue ribbons he had won in many races, and suddenly blue ribbon came out of Phil's mouth. He said it was Blue Ribbon Sports. We're happy. The meeting progressed and Phil repeated his college project line by line. The Onitsuka employees were so impressed that they themselves told Phil that they want their company Blue Ribbon America M. Adil Phil gave them his address and asked them to send some samples of Tiger training shoes. Phil's happiness knew no bounds. He transferred the money for the shoe samples to Onitsuka and awaited the samples for the America lot. In response to Phil's letter, Onitsuka said that shoes would arrive soon, but in reality, this happened. No, Phil had still not lost hope, but until the shoes arrived, he needed a job to survive. To survive, he took an accounting job at a small firm. It had been almost 1 year since the meeting with Onitsuka, and Phil had almost lost hope. There was a notice from customs that 12 Tiger shoes had arrived from Japan. After collecting the shoes, Phil immediately unboxed them and first showed them to his college coach Bill Bowerman and also shared his business plan. Bowerman liked the shoes so much that the next day Phil was quite surprised by this offer. During his entire coaching career, the one thing Bill Bowerman was most obsessed with was shoes. After experimenting with shoes for years, he had become an expert in shoe design. His entire focus was on making the shoes lighter. He would often take his students' shoes without asking, tear them, make minor modifications over several days, and then return them. And truly, his modifications, for runners, he was like a godlike figure. And today that same godlike figure wanted to become Phil's business partner. It was a no-brainer. Phil shook hands with Bowerman and now they are both 50-50 partners. On that day, Phil wrote a letter to Onitsuka and requested exclusive distributorship rights for selling Tiger shoes in Western USA. Along with it, an initial order of 300 shoes at a total cost of $1,000 was also placed. This time the shoes arrived on time, and along with that, Blue Ribbon also received the exclusive distribution rights for the Western United States. Phil had been waiting for this and now it was time to sell these shoes. Phil requested many sports shops to sell Tiger shoes, but everyone refused to keep Tiger shoes in their shop. Phil did not have the money to open his own shop, so he came up with a solution. He filled the trunk of his car with shoe boxes, and wherever there was an athletic competition, after the race, he started presenting his shoes while talking to coaches, athletes, and spectators. Phil had tried a sales job before, but it was not successful. But this time, the customer's response shocked even Phil. His shoes were selling like hotcakes. He himself had been an athlete, and therefore the athlete's problems. They understood well, so they were able to easily convince customers that Tiger's shoes were the best for them. In just 2 months, they sold the first shipment of 300 pairs and directly placed an order for 900 Tiger shoes. But their total earnings were only $2,000 and the total cost was $3,000. So Phil asked for a loan of $1,000 from the bank for the first time. The bank approved the loan, considering the strong business of Blue Ribbon. Phil finally had a career that he deeply enjoyed. Bill Bowerman was a trusted partner, and there was a product that was selling on its own. In short, Phil was having a great time. But then a twist comes in the story. A letter arrived in Phil's name. This letter was written by a wrestling coach. This coach was claiming that he recently returned from meeting with Onitsuka in Japan, and Onitsuka had given him the exclusive rights for the Tiger shoes for all of America. The distributor rights have been granted. That coach immediately ordered Phil to shut down the Tiger shoes business. Phil's business was only 2 months old and it was already on the verge of closing. He immediately wrote a letter to Onitsuka asking for clarification, but he received no response. Therefore, Phil decided that he would go to Japan and confront Onitsuka. During his meeting, Phil clarified how he was wronged, presented his strong sales argument, and explained future plans. The next day, his meeting was directly with the company owner, Mr. Onitsuka, and Phil. Mr. Unichika said that Phil's passion reminded him of his young days, and with that, he gave Phil back the distribution rights for Western USA. Phil was relieved, but the problems were not over yet. After the first year of business was not complete, Blue Ribbon had made sales of $8,000, and they had also hired a salesman named Jeff Johnson to expand into another city. Jeff's specialty was that he, like Phil, had also been an athlete and was extremely passionate about his work. Consequently, the sales were going to double to $16,000 in the second year of the business. But surprisingly, this was for them a beep. Phil wanted to grow very quickly. So as soon as a shipment of Onitsuka was sold out, he placed the next order with double or even triple the quantity. They had to reinvest all their profits for the payment of this order and also had to take a loan from the bank. And after basically 1 year of business, Blue Ribbon had accumulated thousands of dollars in debt and the cash flow was negative. As a result, the banks refused to give Phil more loans and suddenly there was no cash to run the business. Blue Ribbon's Phil somehow had to arrange money. So he took an accountant job again, this time at PwC, and had to invest his entire salary in the business. On the other hand, their partner Bill Bowerman was working on making Tiger's shoes better. Bowerman realized that Americans' bodies were longer and heavier compared to the Japanese. But therefore, their shoes should also be different. Bowerman tore apart the Tiger shoes and experimented on them. A turning point came when he combined the best features of different Tiger shoes to create a shoe for Americans. Due to Phil's management and Bowerman's shoe design, in the next 5 years, complete Tiger Shoes had become one of the top shoe brands in America. By 1971, sales had touched 1.3 million and the business was doubling every year. Along with this, Phil quit his job and joined Blue Ribbon full-time. Everything was a huge blow comes. Seeing Blue Ribbon's success, Onitsuka got greedy. They now wanted to keep all the earnings from Tiger Shoes to themselves. And so they gave Phil an ultimatum. If Phil they would give. Phil was feeling quite shocked and hurt. This was a huge betrayal for him. By talking about buying Blue Ribbon, Onitsuka had crossed all limits, and that's why Phil made the biggest decision of his life. Phil gathered his team and told them that this is the moment we have all been waiting for internally. The time for selling someone else's brand is now over. Now it's time to create our own brand. With this, they ended the partnership with Onitsuka and now took it upon themselves to manufacture shoes for their own brand. The very first step was to create a new logo. Phil wanted the logo of their shoe brand to evoke a sense of running, a sense of motion, and a sense of victory among athletes. Awaken. Plus, the logo should be such that it can fit on the side of the shoe. They hired a graphic design student for the logo design. After a few days, the student showed several designs, among them the employees, and paid a fee of $35. After the logo, the next step was choosing the brand name. Names like Falcon and Dimension 6 were suggested, but then the company's first salesman, Jeff Johnson, told everyone that last night his Nike, in Greek, the goddess of victory, is called Nike. Therefore, this name was suitable and was accepted. After this, Phil hired a third-party manufacturer to make the shoes. Nike gave them designs. But unlike today, at that time no one knew Nike. Plus, brands like Adidas, Puma, and now Kutz Tiger were very big competitors for Nike, were capable of crushing any new brand. So Phil used a marketing strategy for Nike that no one was using in the 1970s. He noticed that other runners preferred to wear shoes of the same brand that they were made. Therefore, Nike made an annual deal of $5,000 with the best runner of that time, Steve Prefontaine, to promote Nike. And with this, Nike became one of the first brands to use athletics brand endorsements as a marketing strategy. Phil's second strategy was to strategically choose his sales team. This allowed the sales team to understand the problems and needs of their customers, who were mostly athletes, very well. Ultimately, this greatly increased the quality of product design, sales, and after-sales service. Nike grew by taking advantage of Overman's shoe designs. As a result, by 1980, Nike had a team of 2,700 employees, reached sales of $270 million, and became the largest athletic shoe company in the USA, beating Adidas. But then a company entered that shook Nike, and that company was Reebok. Nike's main focus was always to make their shoes the best for sports. Looks and style were never their focus. But in the 1980s, in the fashion trend and the taste of athletic shoes, a major change came. Now people didn't just want a strong and better performing shoe, they wanted a shoe that was attractive and stylish in looks along with performance, and Reebok provided exactly that to the customers. Eventually, customers' connection with Nike started to break. The company experienced a loss for the first time and several employees had to be laid off. In 1986, Reebok surpassed Nike to become the largest athletic shoe company in the USA. Nike needed to do something magical soon to survive and grow, and for this task, Nike chose a magical basketball player. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was an emerging player at that time, and Phil knew that he was capable of becoming the greatest and most legendary player in basketball in the future, so Nike signed Michael Jordan as a brand ambassador. Along with this, Nike launched basketball sneakers called Air Jordan in Michael Jordan's name. Before Air Jordan, basketball shoes were quite ordinary and boring. Basketball shoes used to be quite ordinary and boring, but Air Jordan, with its bold colors and stylish design, changed the trend of basketball shoes overnight. Air Jordan became those historical shoes that across the world started the sneaker culture. Also during that time, Michael Jordan was in phenomenal form. Michael used to wear these shoes during games to promote them, and Nike also released ads for these shoes with Michael. Due to all these reasons, Air Jordan emerged as a powerful combination of performance and style. In the very first year of launch, Nike sold Air Jordans worth $100 million and finally overtook Reebok again. After this success, Nike never stopped. In the 1990s, they expanded globally, conquering one country after another. They entered other sportswear in addition to shoes, and today Nike has a valuation of about 12 lakh crore rupees. The world's largest sportswear brand is Phil, and Nike's journey is truly phenomenal. The most important lesson from this journey is execution. Phil has said in his book, Shoe Dog, let everyone else call your idea crazy, just keep going. Don't stop. Don't even think about stopping until you get there. Meaning, no matter what anyone says, if you are passionate about an idea, take a calculated risk and execute it. Nike's tagline also says, just do it. If you like this video, I would recommend that you watch this next video.